streams. Evo, možemo početi. Ja vas sve srdačno pozdravljam ispred Agencije za mobilnost i programe Europske unije i Ministarstva znanosti, obrazovanja i mladih. Ovo je naš prvi webinar u ciklusu webinara o novim natječajima misija EU-a u 2024. godini programa Obzor Europa. Danas je tema, dakle, novi natječaji za misiju Prilagodba klimatskim promjenama koji su otvoreni u predprošli mjesec i I will switch to English for our guests. So warm welcome to everybody. We have a tight schedule, so just a few introductory remarks and rules for this webinar. So this webinar will be recorded, meaning that please do not switch on your microphone and your camera, and the recording will be available on the YouTube channel of the Agency for Mobility and EU programs afterwards. I also forgot to mention that I'm the national contact point for EU missions, meaning that you can contact me anytime regarding any questions that you may have regarding the mission calls, mission topics, or any question that you may have on EU missions of Horizon Europe. We have a very tight schedule, and the questions will be, you can ask questions via Slido. My colleague will post, I have sent you the link in email, and my colleague will post it in the chat. So after all our presentations, you can ask any questions to our speakers, and we have approximately half an hour, enough time for all of your questions. So the idea today is to give you a crash course on the mission adaptation to climate change, introduction to the mission, what are EU missions, what is the mission, EU mission adaptation to climate change, what is its goal, and then we will have also the presentation of new topics for Horizon Europe EU mission adaptation to climate change for 2024. So the topics that are currently opened, and these presentations will be given the introduction to the missions and to the mission and the new topics by Ms. Sophie Berger from the European Commission, from the Secretariat of the EU Mission Adaptation to Climate Change. And then we will have also some activities in the field of the mission in Croatia, which will be given by Miljenko Sedlar. He works at REGEA as the head of climate department. And we will have also the presentation of a successful project from that Croatia entities participate, DESIRMED. And this presentation will be given by Mr. Ivan Sekovsky. He's the project officer from PAPRAC, the UN Priority Actions Program Regional Activity Center. And we will have then two presentations for options, support options for applicants. So each mission has its projects that give support to applicants, and we will hear from Ms. Dana Stuparu about the Climax project from Delta West, and also from Thomas Kurtz about pathways to resilience. So Climax and pathways to resilience, two projects that give support options for applicants. And the last by Ivana Pulis, the assistant director for in the field of science from the Agency for mobility and EU programs. She will present also the national support system for Horizon Europe and the measures for organizations that support national participation in union programs for RNI. So if I can ask all the presenters, all speakers, they can unmute themselves and they can switch on their camera. And now I would like to invite Sophie to give the first presentation on the introduction to the mission and the implementation of the mission adaptation to climate change at EU level. Sophie, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you for the invite. I'm just trying to share my presentation. Share screen, okay. I believe that you can see my screen, but it's not in full screen mode yet. Is that correct?
Yes.
And now does it work, or do you have the?
Well, not in full screen mode.
What? Sorry, what did you say?
It's still not in full screen mode in the presentation mode.
Sharing screen because and now. And now do you see, is it better?
It's the same. We can see the presentation, but not in the presentation mode.
Ah, hang on, I know, I think, okay, hang on. So, no, it should.
Yes, that's good.
It's good. Okay, sorry for that. Sometimes technology, even though we do a lot of meetings, sometimes it's still not working so much. So as Ivan was saying, I'm working for the European Commission, more specifically for the Directorate General for Research and Innovation. And the reason I'm here today is because I spend most of my time working on the mission on adaptation to climate change. And here with this presentation, what I will try to do is give you a bit of a better understanding of what the mission is about and what we've done so far and a little bit what's in the pipeline, but this is more for the second part of the presentation later on. So in terms of context, and more specifically policy context, at the start of the previous commission, and everything is going to change probably now since there was the elections at the end of last week. But anyway, one of the priority for the previous commission, which started in 2019, was the European Green Deal. And the goal of the Green Deal was really to make Europe climate neutral by 2050, but also climate resilient. And this is a little bit less known than the climate neutrality objective, but really this is part of the key goal of the Green Deal. And in 2021, the Commission released an updated version of the adaptation strategy, which is setting a vision on how the European Commission sees how Europe should be adapted to the unavoidable impact of climate change by 2050. And this adaptation strategy lies on 4 different pillars. There is one which is about stepping up international actions, but this is not so relevant for here, so I just mentioning it passing by. But more importantly, the 3 first pillars are really key because it says that adaptation needs to be smarter. So based on the latest data, based also on the latest evidence that we have, science needs to guide the transition. The second one is that adaptation needs to be more systemic. There are some progress in adaptation so far, but it's clear that most of the time it's in silos. And the problem is that the changes caused by climate change are so big that we need to to break down those silos and have a more holistic view. And the third one is faster adaptation. And this is also in line with the latest finding with a lot of reports, including the latest European Climate Risk Assessment report released in March, which says that there are some progress, but the impact are increasing so fast that we need to step up the actions. And so as one of the main implementation vector of the adaptation strategy, the EU launched in 2021 the EU Mission on Adaptation to Climate Change. And this mission is really inspired from Mission Apollo the previous centuries, where the idea was to send a person to the moon, and to do so, we did everything we had to do to achieve that objective. Well, with the mission on adaptation to climate change, this is the same. So we have one big objective, which is to support at least 150 regions and local authorities to become climate resilient by 2030. And we're trying to do everything we have to do to achieve that objective. Here, I'd like to draw your attention on the fact that the adaptation strategy has an objective for the whole of Europe by 2050, whereas the adaptation mission has an objective with fewer people, 150 regions, but much sooner, because it's 2030. And so it's really, the idea is to work with a coalition of the willing to work smart, to be smarter, faster, and more systemic, to really achieve impactful change in terms of adaptation in Europe. And also the reason why we're focusing on regions is because adaptation needs to be place-based, for the simple reason that the impacts depend on really the change from one region to the other, but also the skills and the strength of one region will not be the one of another. And so every region has its own strengths and weaknesses to respond to climate change. It also needs to be systemic, and it also needs to be inclusive. And then in terms of functioning of the mission, this slide, which is a little bit complicated because the way the mission is set up is a bit complicated, is that on the one side, on the left-hand side, we have the European Commission that is funding so far research and innovation projects, but also other projects such as LIFE or Interact working on adaptation. And those projects are trying to develop solutions that will help achieve the objective of the mission. And on the right-hand side, we have the regions and local authorities that need to be adapted and that target the main target audience of the mission. And then in between, we have the mission implementation platform that is MIP4ADAPT that has several goals. It is there to act as an umbrella for the different activities of the mission and try to simplify a little bit to the external world the functioning of the mission. And it has the role of coordination between the regions themselves so that they can learn from each other, between the project themselves so that they can learn from each other, but also between the project and the region so that there is cross-fertilization of what's been developed as part of the mission. So they are supposed to animate a community of practice. They also supposed to provide technical assistance to regions. They're also supposed to do the communication and the monitoring of the mission. And so now I'm going to detail a couple of the elements that I've shown here. The first one is about the regions that are part of the mission. And as a way to engage with regions and local authorities, in 2021 or 2022 even, the Commission launched a call for expression of interest, asking regions who wanted to be part of the mission to apply to sign a charter where they commit to work towards the objective of the mission. And we were hoping to get 150 applicants or regions keen to get on board. And we were really happy to see that in the end we got 311. And those are, you have the map here on the right-hand side. It's covering a good part of Europe, almost 40% of the European population. It's very diverse. We have regions of 18 million inhabitants versus regions or municipalities of a couple of thousands. And so we're covering 29 countries, including 29 member states. And this is really the base we are working with. And if we zoom in a little bit for Croatia, and I'm sure that Miljenko is going to develop that a little bit further, but I just want to say that here in Croatia, we have 8 signatories. So you have the list there. And I think it's when you look at the country, the coverage is not bad at all. And so the second element is also the project. And this is where the core part of the mission is taking place. This is where the solutions are being developed. And for the project, so far, we have 32 projects for a financial contribution of 337 million, even a little bit more. And those are the calls from 2021 to part of 2023, with more than 840 participation. And if we zoom in a little bit more to what's happening in Croatia, you can see that, again, Croatia is quite well represented here because we have 7 projects and up to 4.34 million of financial contribution coming to you with 21 participation. The biggest participant is by far Regea, and I guess Miljenko is going to talk about that. But I'd like to also highlight that the 4 projects at the top are all in nature-based solutions. And I believe that the call of 2022 was a very successful one for Croatia, because you have funding from 4 projects, and that includes 5 regions, I think. And so, yeah, I guess you're going to hear more about this event a little bit later, but I just wanted to congratulate you, because it seems like you've done a very good job. Then come Made for Adapt, and I was talking about the technical assistance. And if in here we have charter signatories, I just want to highlight that as part of charter signatories, you're entitled to receive technical assistance from the mission implementation platform Made for Adapt. The next cutoff is on the 30th of June. It takes only 5 minutes to apply, but it's very easy. And if you cannot meet this deadline, you can apply whenever you want, but it's easier. The technical assistance is in the local language. In Croatia, it's led by EcoInvest. And you have 3 different types. One is about developing climate adaptation plan. The other one is about funding and financing demonstration projects. And the third one is about engaging citizen and stakeholder, and it provides support for the organization on community level events. And so if you have access to that, I really encourage you to apply for it, because it is very easy and it can only help you. So now I'm coming to the end of my presentation, but just to say that the mission portal here is really the knowledge hub of the mission, and there are a couple of interesting elements, such as the regional adaptation support tool or adaptation story, which are real-life example of adaptation solutions, including 2 from Croatia. We also have on the website that we recently updated a database of funding sources, both national and EU level, and useful tools that support you in adaptation. And then we have various guidance documents. Quickly also, if you're already part of the mission, I encourage you to join the community of practice, or even keep a look on that, because we're also organizing training events that are available to everyone. And there is, on this website, there is an exclusive zone for the mission project and for the charter signatories, where you can discuss with your peers. And then, but this will be shared later, if you want to follow the mission, or if you have important information to share, I would advise you to really follow the newsletter, because it's the best way to be kept up to date with the mission. And so with that, I thank you, and I hope I managed to keep to the time that was allocated to me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. We are on time. Thank you, Sophie, for this presentation and for showcasing Croatia's participation in the mission. And now I'm inviting Milenko Sedlar to give us an overview of activities in Croatia on the adaptation to climate change. Milenko, please. We cannot hear you. Perhaps, Sophie, if we can continue with the presentation of topics, and then Milenko can present afterwards, if you're okay with that.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute myself.
Sorry.
I didn't have the the right to do so. Yes. So let me share my screen again. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as part of the activities of the mission, most of the money of the mission is going to Horizon Europe calls. We have a call opening every year, and this year it's open since the spring, and it will close on the 18th of September 2024. This year, we're going to have 9 topics, and we hope to fund 90 projects with that. We have 2 coordinating and support actions, and 6 million are dedicated to that, and we hope to fund 2 projects that will really extend and complement what the implementation platform is doing. We have 3 research topics that are meant to boost really applied research in areas that we see as strategic for the mission, and with always a local dimension for the implementation of the results. And with those 3 topics, we hope to fund 5 projects. And then really the bulk part of the money for 2024 is going to, with almost 100 million, it's going to demonstration projects. And here we're trying to develop, test, and implement, very important, to implement innovative solutions in a way that is more systemic and integrated. As I said, this relates to one of the, it's really at the center of the mission, and in a way that is also more inclusive. And for that one, we have 4 topics and hope to fund 3 projects for each. And so in total, that would be 12 demonstration projects. So here what I'm going to do is I'd like to state in advance that no matter what happens, what is really the legal document is the text that is in the call. So here it's an interpretation that is trying to help you to understand really what is behind the project. And so we're highlighting a couple of elements, but really you have to refer to the text because it's based on the text that the projects are going to be evaluated. And this is also one of the reasons why the coming slides are a little bit boring. I'm sorry about that, but it's because we cannot differ too much from what is in the text. So instead, what I've tried to do is highlight a few bits and pieces, and I will try to like which, in my view, capture the best the essence of the topic. And so the first topic is the coordinating and support actions. It's a project, it would fund 1 project of approximately 2 million. And it's about bringing available and actionable solutions for climate adaptation to the knowledge of regions and local authorities. And so really the idea with this topic is really to make the access to information, and especially the latest information developed by the project, more easily accessible by the regions. And so with this topic, it's really meant to complement what the MIP is doing so far. And so it is important for this project to work closely and collaborate with the mission implementation platform, and to analyze the regions that the solutions that have been developed as part of the mission. And the idea here is to make something that is operational, information that is operational, that is directly actionable, because the regions and local authorities, from what they tell us, is that they don't necessarily know how to do things, and they would like to work on adaptation, but they're not up to date with the latest knowledge. And so it's really about bringing those solutions. So this is the first topic. The second topic is also coordinating and support actions. It has a 4 million budget, and it's meant to support 1 project that is also meant to complement what the mission implementation platform is doing. And here it's about really getting the national level on board with the mission and engaged, and it's really working on multi-level governance. And one of the idea is this topic is that by having the national level on board, we would see some national adaptation hubs developing, and those one would be flexible and would depend on the local conditions of every single country. And it would be a way to bring in the regions who are not directly participating from the mission. And it's really a forum for regions to discuss nationally and to really take the fruits of the mission and really adapt faster. In addition to that, this project will lead to a very robust twinning scheme to really also, in the sense of bringing the solutions to regions that are less involved with the mission. And so, as I was saying before, this national hub would have to be light and agile and flexible to reflect the national realities and really tailored to the national context. And this project would have to collaborate closely with topic number 1 and with a mission implementation platform. So that's it for the coordination and support action. And now I'm going to present the 3 research and innovation topics. So the first one is about developing and refining outcome indicators to measure progress on climate resilience at different levels. The idea with this project, it would be fund one project of approximately a bit less than 3 million. It's to better capture the state and the progress of adaptation efforts. And also to measure the effectiveness of adaptation with the idea that if we can measure that better, it will accelerate the implementation of adaptation efforts. And so here there are much more details, of course, in the text, but the key part of here is to develop a framework that is integrated for monitoring, evaluating, and drawing lessons from adaptation measures. And then there are a series of other constraint in the topic that, for instance, it should involve Earth observation indicator, it should involve citizen science, and it's about also communication, but really the key is about the framework here. That leads me to the 4th topic, which here it's also in the sense of trying to be more systemic. And so it's about researching the complex interplay between the climate and the biodiversity crisis to be a bit more systemic. And for this topic, we've allocated 8 million euros to fund 2 projects of approximately 4 million each. It's a research and innovation action. And really here, the goal of this topic is we hope that this topic will lead to improved capability in assessing, modeling in a more systemic way the impact of climate change and biodiversity crisis together, and provide information to prioritize actions that are beneficial for both, while minimizing the trade-offs. And really, this topic, the goal of this topic is twofold. So I said the first one is to better understand the interaction between the 2 crises, and the second one is to build a tool and design the solutions that are there to break the silos. And so in terms of scopes, it involves investigate a couple of case studies on cascading and compounding climate risk and the link between biodiversity loss and climate change, and to look into how combining actions for climate adaptation and biodiversity reinforce or weaken each other and provide policy recommendations. So it's about researching, but also thinking about being actionable and a little bit more active. So that is it for topic number 4. Topic number 5 is also about being a bit more systemic, but this time it's not climate and biodiversity, it's more climate adaptation and transformative approaches, and it's more about social science here. It has the same budget as the previous topic, so 8 million for 2 projects, approximately 4 million per project. It's a research and innovation action. And the goal of that, like as an outcome of this topic, we would see societal transformation towards a society that is more just. So it's about just climate resilience. And it's really, this topic is really about developing knowledge on how to integrate adaptation measure with regional transformative approaches. And I'd like to highlight that here, the findings should be tested and presented in at least 3 regions and their neighbors. So it's also not, it's also very much breaking the silos and not necessarily looking at just one region, but thinking about the impact to the neighboring regions. Then comes the 4 last topics, which are all demonstration and innovation actions. And for all of those topics, the activities or the testing activities should take place in at least 3 regions or communities located in at least 3 different member states or associated countries. Those do not necessarily need to be chartered signatories, but I'd like to highlight that the fact that the regions that signed the mission charter signed it means that they are willing to work towards climate adaptation goals and towards the mission. So they might be good candidates for that. And those activities those projects must also include at least 3 replicating regions interested in reapplying the lessons learned. I'd like also to highlight that last week on the 5th of June, the Mission Implementation Platform organized a matchmaking event for the 4 demonstration topic of the 24 call. And one of the concrete outcome of this event was to try to pair regions and research and innovation actors to try and work towards those projects. And so it's worth having a look at the outcome of this session, because if you're looking for partners, it might be interesting. And so topic number 6 has a budget of 27 million. It's supposed to fund 3 projects of approximately 9 million each. And it's about demonstrating approaches to improve the bankability of solutions by design, and also to address the co-benefits of, for instance, mitigation and adaptation, really to improve the revenue streams. So it's really working on finance. And the key here is the bankability of solutions, because most of the time adaptation is seen as a cost. And here it's really trying to change that, and also get the private sector a bit more involved in the mission. And so here it's in the scope, it's about identifying financially valuable cases where climate adaptation is there, but on top of other benefits such as mitigation, but not only. It could be also about water efficiency or biodiversity. And it's really about increasing the resilience and include the businesses. Then topic 7 is about demonstrating solutions specifically for rural areas and small and medium-sized places, because a lot of the EU funding focuses on the big urban centers, the capitals. And so here it's also in the idea of being more inclusive. And so here it has a budget of 22.5 million euro to fund 3 projects that are slightly smaller than the previous topic, because it's 7.5 million for each project. And here it's, as I said, it's as an outcome of this project, we would have rural areas and small and medium-sized community more involved in the mission as well. And so I'd like to say that it is relatively similar to previous calls. And so it's about identifying approach and innovative solutions that lead to effective climate adaptation. Nature-based solution seems like very well suited here. And so it should be explored as a priority, which is also a priority of the European Commission. And here it should really, this project should support small and medium local authorities to close the skill gap and really help them adapt to climate change. And because we are aware that those communities do not necessarily have a lot of capacity to work on climate adaptation, the project should really, and the proposal should include specific consideration on how to facilitate the engagement of those, taking into account their limited capacity. And that leads me to topic number 8, which is on just climate resilience, or more specifically on demonstrating approaches for regions and local authorities to increase the resilience of the most vulnerable social groups. It also has a budget of 22.5 million euros. And so it's the same budget as the previous topic. And here, as an outcome, we expect to have example of equitable adaptation measures, and it's really to improve the capacity and to understand and to cater for the needs of the most vulnerable and marginalized group. Just like the previous topic, we expect that those groups have a lower capacity to be engaged, and so this should be taken into account. And we expect this topic to lead to identification, development, and testing and demonstration of equitable adaptation actions and solutions. And as I said, it's really to address the most vulnerable groups, most vulnerable being by age, health, or socioeconomic status. And those ones should be directly involved in the development of the measures tested. And that leads me to the last topic, which is about topic 9, about systemic and cross-sectoral solutions for climate resilience. And that needs to be tailored to the local needs of regions and local authorities. Again, here we have a slightly bigger budget, like topic 6, which is 27 million, 3 projects of approximately 9 million euros. And so here it's really about breaking the silos and working on climate resilience in a cross-sectoral and systemic way. And so here, it's what is key here is about really like embracing a holistic view and looking at the interconnection and the interdependency between the sectors and between like the different impacts of climate change. And so here it's a slide that is summarizing the different topics that we have. And here on the last slide that I have here, it's a couple of resources that are there for you, including how to find your NCP, but I assume that Ivan and his colleagues are going to present a little bit more this information. Maybe it's not worthy to highlight what is at the bottom of the slide, which is something that was released by the research executive agencies, which are a couple of do's and don'ts to apply for Horizon Europe funding. And I think it has some interesting elements in that. It wasn't meant specifically for the mission, but I think there are still some things that are really worth having a read. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie, very much on this brief and comprehensive overview of all the new mission topics. So if anyone from the audience has questions, you can ask them in Slido and we'll have them at the end of the webinar. And now Mirek can present the precious actions in the area of adaptation to climate change.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes. Great.
Yes, thank you. And thanks, Sophie, for stepping in with my technical issues. So try to share my presentation now. I hope you can see it now.
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you. Thanks, Ivan, for having me here to present basically a bit of what we are doing with the missions, especially the adaptation mission in Croatia. So as mentioned already, I work in Northwest Croatia Regional Energy and Climate Agency. And basically we have become a climate agency as well 2 years ago. Why? Because there was a huge need from the local and regional governments to support them in the climate related issues, not only with the climate change mitigation issues, so also the adaptation. And that's why we have transformed our agency as well in time. So you've seen this slide already, so Sophie showed it, but I would just like to show a bit more of a context in Croatia currently for you to be more clear on the next things that I'll be presenting. So in terms of signatures on the left, there is adaptation plans that we are aware of are on the right. So the city of Karlovac County, Krapina, Zagreb County, and city of Zagreb have adaptation plans till now. They are based on, I would say, quite not that detailed risk and vulnerability assessments, and there is quite a lot of work to be done for those regions and also for those cities. As currently, for example, we are developing for the city of Zagreb a really comprehensive risk and vulnerability assessment, and I'll show that later why actually. So only basically few plans that I mentioned already are properly developed when the resilience action plans or something like adaptation plans are developed on the levels of cities and regions, but most of them are actually developed within the sustainable energy and climate adaptation plans, which is not that bad. It's really a good thing. It's a good thing for further development. I would say more detailed workout in the later stages. But since I would say 2 years from now, the interest in adaptation plans and developing adaptation plans and planning adaptation measures has risen because, for example, one of the reasons is that having some kind of an adaptation plan or a SECAP was a kind of it was an ex-ante conditionality for financing for specific actions. For example, the National Fund for Environmental Protection and Energy Efficiency was launching calls that were financing the adaptation measures, and you could only apply if you had such a plan. So there are plans of different quality, but as Sophie was mentioning earlier, which is really crucial now, is that climate change adaptation is still seen as I would say, a part of the governance system that is not horizontally spread towards all the systems and all the sectors. It's really still in silos, as we tend to do it here in Croatia. So, and the other thing why we see the rise in interest of developing adaptation plans and concrete measures for adapting and bringing the resilience on a higher level is that in a couple of last years we've been facing here in Croatia the numbers of extreme weather events that really led to significant material losses, impacts on infrastructure, but also to threat to human life. Even in the past days, we have been witnessing here significant and huge, amount of precipitation in a short period of time, flooding not only here but also bordering with Slovenia, Austria. So this is something that is kind of triggering the thinking about the resilience, increase, and adaptation on the local and regional level. This was just about to paint a picture where we are in Croatia, and a bit more is also that all those calls that Sophie presented are really great, and we would really, there are a lot of people in Croatia that would like to apply for that, but there is a lack of expertise really in Croatia. There is a lack of expertise to develop proper risk and vulnerability assessments, and the fact is that on the level of on all levels of governance, the level of awareness is still low. There are some brighter and better examples that the ones that have actually applied to the mission adaptation, but we still have really a lot of work to be done. And the mainstreaming effect, the one I mentioned earlier for adaptation, is really not that big. I'll show you a bit what we're trying to do in Zagreb later on, but it's really some hard work up front of us to do. So Sophie was also mentioning the MIPRO Adapt as a tool, basically. So there are a couple of users in Croatia. So counties of Krapina, Zagora, and Karlovac are basically the users of the MIPRO Adapt, which is a technical assistance for the cities and regions, as well as city of Zagreb. And I mentioned earlier that they have adaptation plans of a different quality from past times. So what is the focus in this adaptation? I would say using the MIPRO Adapt as a tool is basically a transition from the adaptation plans to more concrete actions, to project development and implementation, and towards the mainstreaming of climate change or climate change adaptation into the processes of the cities and the regions. And there is also one thing that I would like to emphasize here is that we also have the other mission. The other mission is the mission on 100 climate neutral and smart cities, which city of Zagreb is the signatory. And what has to be done within this is so-called the climate city contract, which basically pledges the city of Zagreb to be carbon neutral by 2030. But what we are trying basically to do within the climate city contract is to connect mitigation and adaptation as basically as two different but the same sides of the coin, because most of the mitigation actions when coupled with adaptation effects have significant resilience upgrade effects. So this is why we try to do it systemically in terms of how to basically mainstream the adaptation effects and adaptation measures and activities into all processes of the city of Zagreb. So, for example, we are working on systemic levels like spatial plans. We're trying to basically create spatial plans that will serve as a tool for the adaptation. Also, in terms of budget, our plan is to have the city budget basically climate-proofed and climate change monetized within the 2 years from now. So what does it really mean? It means that in a couple of years that we will not need a special adaptation plan, but basically the city development plan should be also an adaptation plan. So this is how we're trying to avoid the silo effect that climate tends to have in some cases. So, but there are some, I would say, positive things also in Croatia to show. We have, as Sophie also mentioned, we have 2 mission stories. Some mission stories are basically a good tool for, as we see it, for awareness raising. So a couple of years ago, we have made a quite detailed heat mapping of the city of Zagreb. That was a basis for us to create the action plan for implementation of green infrastructure and nature-based solutions, and this is something that is really a good basis for development of projects that are mitigating the urban heat island effects, but also tackles the social and health dimension as well. So there is also one more mission story here. It's on the basically on how do we use spatial plans as tool for mitigation and adaptation, and there are some systemic things that we are really trying to implement in Croatia, and that are really working out so far. There is a lot of work to be done, because we see, for example, the risk and vulnerability assessment that has been done in 2019 was actually now is actually now quite obsolete because of the rate of the climate change and how fast it is that basically when we finish whatever we're doing on adaptation plans, we'll have to start all over again, because the changes are so fast that we'll just have to adapt in more I would say in more often cycles than we did so far. So Sophie already mentioned, I will be just talking about the projects that we are engaged into. It's the mission funded projects in Croatia. One of them is the Resilience. It's basically a project that works on development and that compiles and shares, promotes tools and scientific knowledge to support regions in basically identifying and addressing their climate-related risks. It has multiple tools and benefit. I have put down the web address of the project, so you can really explore it. And the good thing about Resilience is basically that it works in close cooperation with sister projects that are innovation types of projects like Arsino, Impetus, and Transformar. So basically what it does, it takes all the innovative solutions that are developed within those projects and try to help the regions how to implement all those solutions in their everyday work. And it's really good thing that I think that what we have seen is that cooperation of local and regional governments with innovation community is crucial. As Sophie also mentioned, that innovation is something, it will be the key for us to adapt, and there is a potential to speed up things quite a lot when innovative community is present. So what is basically Resilience working on? It's working on understanding the local and regional needs, but also connecting, how innovative community is working together with the regional and local community, but also with the facilitators. One important thing is also the building of local and regional capacity. We work a lot with cities and regions, and we see the lack of capacity that is present. I have to say it's also on the national level. On all levels, and this has to change really quickly, and we have to be thinking and starting to understand the impacts and to see how we can embed everything related to climate change into all of the processes. There is one more project I would like to talk about. It's the Arcadia project. It's basically a project that started earlier this year. It's about transformative climate resilience through implementation of nature-based solutions. It's a project that is about 18.5 million euros big, and in Croatia there are partners that we have basically as a so-called model region gathered is the two regional governance. So one is Krapina-Zagorje County, the other is City of Zagreb. We also engage the academia, so Faculty of Agronomy. We engage business, or I would say innovative business, the company called GDI, who are the developers of the digital solutions, also for our project, but also Krapina-Zagorje County Development Agency, and we in Riga as local coordinators. Why we have set up this local partnership for a model region like that is basically to try to connect, I would say, the key actors in the value chain who are to develop certain solutions for those two regions. So more concrete, what will be developed in Croatia through these projects, apart from the strategies of how to implement nature-based solutions in those two regions to tackle the climate change effects is two very concrete things. So one is in Krapina-Zagorje County, they have a lot of issues with landslides. You were able to see what happened in the city of Pregrada earlier or last week, sorry, and also in a couple of years back. So they have huge problems with landslides. So what we'll develop through the project is a kind of a digital map of landslides with a predictability option. So basically what we will do, in a digital tool that will be developed by the GDI, with the inputs from regional and local governance, but also the technical inputs from the Spatial Planning Bureau, and also with the National Hydrometeorological Service, as well as the Faculty of Agronomy. We will try to basically develop some kind of a tool that will enable them to have a solution that will be in place for them to better plan on how to tackle the landslides, but also we'll be piloting on how the nature-based solutions could help them in tackle the landslides or even to prevent the landslides. This is the tool that we are developing that easily could later on be upscaled and I would say used also in other places, not only in Croatia, but also in entire Europe. The other thing is in the city of Zagreb, there are actually 3 pilot projects. They are related to usage of nature-based solutions to tackle the urban heat in certain areas of Zagreb. And also the plan is to develop, basically transform an existing brownfield location into a living lab for adaptation solutions. So what is supposed to be there? There is a building there that will be transformed into a kind of a living lab, but when the transformation will happen, it'll be by using the nature-based solutions, but also the entire surrounding will be a kind of a test bed for different solutions like ventilation corridors, hydroponics, and I'm not going into many details now, but this is really a good place. We'll try to test different approaches, 10 different solutions, and really concrete solutions that could later on be upscaled, and not only in Croatia, as I mentioned, but also in Europe. There is, I would say, more projects that are related to adaptation, and I would say nature-based solutions as well from different funding programs that we are working on, and I think that a lot of synergies can be really withdrawn among them. And these are just kind of an extract that I wanted to show you. What we are working on is from one side on kind of our governance systems, on the other side on the really technical ones, but with the aim of basically mainstreaming the climate change adaptation into governance, and to be able to upscale what you're working on this demonstration and piloting scale all the way to the really upscaling in really huge areas in Zagreb, but also in other parts of Croatia and Europe. So this is it. If you have any questions, you can also contact me on my email address and also via the chat. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Milenko, this showcasing of projects in Croatia on the adaptation to climate change. And now I would like to invite Ivan Sikovski to share his experience in the project Lasermet as a project of Croatian entity participating in the mission adaptation to climate change. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. Can you see my presentation in a full screen mode?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First, before introducing myself, I just wanted to say that since this is an event aimed for Croatian public, I prepared my presentation in Croatian. I hope that it's okay. I apologize to non-Croatian speakers, but maybe later I can translate it to English and send via Ivan further. Dobro jutro svima, znači ja sam Ivan Sekovski, voditelj programa u centru PAPRAK. Možda samo 2 rečenice o našem centru, nisam siguran koliko su ljudi upoznati. Mi smo jedan od 7 regionalnih centara Mediteranskog akcijskog plana koji je opet dio UN-ovog programa za okoliš. Dakle, dio smo međunarodne priče, da tako kažem, djelujemo u svim zemljama Mediterana, ali smo opet dovoljno samostalni da se i prijavljujemo na europske projekte. Danas ću vam prezentirati jedan od projekata, u biti horizon projekata kojim se bavimo, ali je vezan za misiju klimatske adaptacije. On je već spomenut na početku, znači riječ je o Desir Med projektu i kao što puno ime kaže, demonstration and mainstreaming of nature-based solutions for climate resilient transformation in the Mediterranean. Znači tematski fokus su rješenja temeljena na prirodi, odnosno nature-based solution, a područje je čitavo područje Mediterana. Dakle, on je financiran iz 6. teme poziva Horizon Miss Klima iz 2022. To ne odgovara 6. temi koja je prezentirana malo prije, jer je ova bila fokusirana baš na nature-based solution. Kao što vidite iz broja partnera, radi se o velikom projektu, ima 34 partnera ukupno, a koordinira ga Mediteranski centar za klimatske promjene iz Italije, CMCC. Budžet je nešto manje od 17 milijuna eura i zapravo, s obzirom na trajanje projekta, možemo reći da je relativno i nedavno počeo, 1. siječnja ove godine, imali smo kick-off sastanak krajem veljače i trajat će nekih 60 mjeseci, znači do kraja 2028. godine. Glavni fokus projekta je zapravo jačanje znanja i sposobnosti mediteranskih regija u prilagodbi na klimatske promjene i klimatske otpornosti, fokusirano, kao što sam već rekao, na rješenja temeljena na prirodi, odnosno na MBS, i ovdje nekakva 3 stupa koja su nam posebno važna za razmjenu iskustava i sticanja novih znanja. To su podaci i znanje. Imamo dosta i tako kažem, tehničkih partnera koji su tu od pomoći. Nova načela governansa koji po mom nekako iskustvu obično tu negdje zapne u tom upravljanju i nadležnostima, i novi financijski instrumenti, odnosno mogućnosti samog financiranja i implementacije. Inače, naš centar je isto tako zaslužan za radni paket 3, a to je ovaj tu desno u ovom zelenom krugu, scaling up. U biti od svih nekako stvari koje se radi na terenu, ideja je da se razvije framework koji će se fokusirati na nekakve barijere, ali i na mogućnosti koje omogućavaju uspješnu adaptaciju, i da će taj framework biti transferabilan i na ostala područja. Što se tiče, vidjeli ste da ima jako puno partnera, 34, ali ono što je zanimljivo recimo u ovom projektu bilo, barem meni jer nisam imao prije takva iskustva, da funkcioniramo na principu klastera. Znači mi smo dio, iako smo kao samostalni partner, smo dio Splitsko-dalmatinskog klastera. Tu su Splitsko-dalmatinska županija kao nositelj, mi fakultet arhitekture, građevinarstva i geodezije sveučilišta u Splitu i Sunce kao partner nevladina organizacija. I zapravo evo imamo i redovite sastanke sa ciljem šta bolje provedbe projekta na terenu. Inače, svi ovi partneri koje sam ranije pokazao, oni su grupirani u određene regije i to su zapravo nekakve testne regije samoga projekta. One su diljem cijelog Mediterana. Imamo 5 demonstracijskih regija, između ostalog i Splitsko-dalmatinsku županiju, jednu regiju u Portugalu, Valencija, Sardinija i regija u Grčkoj, Istočna Makedonija i Trakija, i 3 replikacijske regije, Region Sud u Francuskoj, Potenza u Italiji i Cipar. Samo malo. Sad ću malo samo više o našem slučaju. Zapravo odlučeno je tokom prijave projekta da će fokus biti područje Kaštelanskog zaljeva. Na sljedećem slajdu ću reći malo više i zašto. Sad za početak možda samo par podataka ovako o Kaštelanskom zaljevu. Tu živi oko 250.000 ljudi, što je više od polovine cijele županije. Dakle, veliki su ti urbanizacijski pritisci baš u ovom području i 80% ukupnog stanovništva živi na obalnoj zoni i oko 90% aktivnosti. Dakle, kad uzmemo te pritiske urbanizacijske i klimatske pritiske, možemo reći da je ova zona jako ranjiva. To je, ajmo reći tako, i potvrđeno. Zapravo 2015. je naš centar u suradnji radio u suradnji s jednim njemačkim centrom radio analizu poplava koje dolaze s mora za cijelu hrvatsku obalu, i zapravo po tim područjima kako je bila podijeljena hrvatska obala, najveći broj ljudi koji je izložen poplavama je zapravo bio u području Kaštelanskog zaljeva, odnosno u području Splita, Trogira, Kaštela i Solina. To područje ima i druge klimatske pritiske kao što su toplinski valovi i suše, ali isto tako u jesenskim i zimskim mjesecima, pogotovo bujične poplave i poplave s mora. Evo ovdje je samo jedna ilustracijska karta. To su karta od Hrvatskih voda iz ove poplavne direktive koja govori koja bi područja zapravo bila ranjiva u budućnosti zbog klimatskih promjena. I naša ideja nekako tu kao klastera je bilo da se fokusiramo ne samo na poplave koje dolaze s mora jugom, već na takozvani compound flooding, odnosno superpozicija bujičnih poplava koja dolaze sa padina i poplava koje dolaze s mora i ti događaji se često, nažalost, događaju istovremeno. E sad, prijava na sam Desir Med projekt nije došla tek tako, da tako kažem. Bilo je tu još nekoliko aktivnosti koje su im prethodile. Prije svega, to je bio i plan upravljanja obalnim područjem grada Kaštela koji je izrađen 2021. godine u okviru Interreg Mediterranean programa koji, plan prilagodbe na klimatske promjene za rijeku Jadro i Kaštelanski zaljev iz Interreg projekta Change We Care i katalog mjera prilagodbe za jadranski dio Hrvatske, Interreg projekt Adria Adapt, inače cijelu tu platformu koja govori o principima izrade planova prilagodbe, ali isto tako i ima taj katalog od preko 40 rješenja, se može naći na adriadapt.eu stranici. I da kako kažem, krunski dokument, plan upravljanja morskim okolišem i obalnim područjem koji je izradila Splitsko-dalmatinska županija. Zašto kažem krunski? Zato što je on usvojen na županijskoj skupštini 2021. godine. Koje su naša očekivanja kao klastera od Desir Med projekta je zapravo istražiti potencijal primjene MBS rješenja u tom području. Naime, svi ovi dokumenti koje sam predstavio u prethodnom slajdu, oni davaju nekakve preporuke za primjenu MBS-a i sad mislimo da je zapravo ovaj projekt nekako da nam da jaču snagu i bolju razmjenu iskustava i bolju mogućnost uopće da se neki od tih rješenja implementiraju. A fokus je na usko obalno područje, znači ono područje, da tako kažem, odmah iza plaža, ozelenjivanja, prvenstveno zbog zaštite od poplava i erozije, ali i nekih drugih koristi koje od toga dobivamo, recimo zasjenjivanje, odnosno smanjivanje toga heat stresa. MBS rješenja za povećavanje propusnosti tla, kao što znate, ne samo u tom području, već u cijeloj obali je velika betonizacija i zapravo otjecanje vode uvelike ovisi o tome koliko je tlo propusno. Renaturalizacija pritoka rijeke Jadro i neka ovo nas posebno interesira, inovativna financijska i posebice governance rješenja, jer zapravo za uspješnu primjenu planova moramo imati i dobru strukturu koja će stati iza tih planova i uspješno provoditi njihove preporuke. Sad ću se samo vratiti na ovaj predzadnji slajd. Mislim, čisto da kažem da u svim ovim planovima, preporukama i slično je sudjelovao barem jedan od partnera ovoga klastera, ili mi, ili Sunce, ili županija, ili fakultet. Zapravo je to priča, ja bih rekao, o jednoj dobroj suradnji i kvalitetnom povjerenju koje je onda kroz različite korake na kraju došlo i do prijave na ovaj projekt. A kako smo se prijavili, zapravo smo bili pozvani od strane glavnog partnera, čija, jer su s nama radili na nekim prethodnim projektima, evo posebice na ovom Adria Adapt EU gdje smo radili taj katalog mjera prilagodbe. Pa eto, važno je imati dobru suradnju i povjerenje, tako da se biva uključen i u kasnije prijave. I još jedan male kao zanimljivost, da tako kažem, možda poruka da ne valja nikad odustati, jer zapravo kada smo se prijavili, kada su bili rezultati, bili smo pola boda iznad prvoga konzorcija, međutim, nakon jednog pisma i nakon naše želje da ipak budemo financirani kao konzorcij, oba dva konzorcija su na kraju prošla, tako da smo, nismo odustali, dobili smo projekt je tek krenuo i ja se nadam da će uspješno biti implementiran. Još je dug put prema nama. Eto, to su neke kratke crtice Desir Meda. Ja vam se zahvaljujem u ime Desir Med projekta. Ako imate neko pitanje, slobodno, imate tu dolje moju mail adresu, pa slobodno ako kasnije želite nešto pitati, slobodno javiti. Eto, hvala vam puno.
Puno vam hvala na prezentaciju i rezime projekta. Evo, podsjećam da možete na linku koji smo poslali postaviti pitanja u aplikaciji Slido, pa ćemo ih sve odgovoriti na kraju webinara. So we are now, I'm switching to English again. We will now hear from two support projects for applicants, meaning that potential applicants and those projects and partners already participating in the mission adaptation to climate change can apply for their various options of support. So first we'll hear about the Climax project, which will be presented by dostupan from Deltares. Please.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me and inviting the Climax project to be part of this meeting. I see that there are already 45 participants, so it's a very nice group, and I'm glad to tell you a few things about Climax. Let me just share my screen. Share. Climax, and I'm also. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. My name is Dana Stuparu. As I told you, I'm from Deltares. I'm project manager of Climax. Climax, it was already mentioned by Sophie. It is a Horizon project that started 1 year ago and is going to run until 2026. It is a very interesting project and one of the few, I hope, in a series of projects that are trying to bring climate information closer to the region. And why it is very interesting, it is because it provides financial, analytical, and practical tools for regions that don't have much experience with climate risk assessments, so that they can really take a first step into preparing for the future. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about Climax, and I hope that you bring the word forward and that we see many regions and colleagues that are going to engage with the project. The project is not a complicated project. It actually aims into looking into the present risks that a region may face, how the risks are going to possibly evolve due to climate change, and is going to help then the regions think about what they can do about it. So the structure is not difficult, and but it's also very nice because it really helps local communities have access to information that has traditionally until now been reserved only to research institutes or very well-positioned national institutions. One central element to the Climax, it's what we call the Climax methodological framework for climate risk assessments. You see here the main framework of the project, and this is a step-by-step roadmap that is guiding the regions on how they can identify the risks, understand what are the possible impacts, understand and think about how they can prioritize between different natural hazards, and also start setting the first thinking process about what they can do about it. So in this case, for any natural hazards, may you think of floods, flash floods, landslides, wildfires, heat waves, droughts, windstorms, and snowfalls. So really a very large portfolio of risks. The regions, they have access to a methodology and the framework on how to assess the current risks and how they can change in the future. and be able to calculate them in the past, how they are at the current moment, but also think about how this can change in the future. And not only the framework is available for that, but we also have a toolbox that is a Python-based script that are well tested and that the regions can use to follow the analysis steps, but also and pre-calculate the hazards. What is very nice about the project, and it's also quite new, is that it brings information on a global scale about climatic trends to it translates this in a way that is meaningful for local regions. And it's nicely heard, but it is something that is not easy to do. So I think in this sense, the project is quite unique. In this direction, the use of local data is highly encouraged. You see here a map of Žilina, that's a city that is in our project, and they can use the information on city vegetation that they have to adapt the scripts and improve the climate risk assessments. Also, here we have a photo, a map of the population that in Barcelona that is more than 75 years old, so really vulnerable population. This can also be very nice to use and understand what are the risks for this group of population to heat stress, but also to different types of risks. So the use of local data is highly encouraged, and the toolbox, the Python toolbox in the project is helping to do that. What else? Yes, of course, of climate. Climate is about multi-risks. It's about bringing global information to local studies, but we as a project, we can't do it ourselves for the regions, but we can support them. And we are a team of large group of institutes that can do that. And we already had a Climax open call open in March. And now we are preparing for a second call for regions to apply. That's going to be open the 1st of July. What do we ask the regions to do? Well, they will start by applying the framework and understanding their local region what their risks are. And the advantages of a common methodology is that it's a benchmark for quality assurance, and it also makes the different risk assessments comparable. So different regions, let's say in Spain, in Portugal, in Greece, in Italy, if they have the same language, they can talk with each other, learn from each other, but also create connections for follow-up work. So it is very important that the common methodology is followed by multiple regions. Then the work will be refined using regional and local analysis, using local data, high resolution, and also data that is relevant for that specific location, because different countries have different way of responding to risks and also different way of assigning importance. So the regional characteristics are very important. And third, once more knowledge is known and gained about the risk assessments, the regions, they can start thinking about what they can do about it and think of adaptation options and strategies. So a step-by-step approach. They have 2 years to do this, and with support from the project team. The first open call, as I told, has been finished, and we are now end of June. We are going to announce together with Sophie and in the commission. We are going to announce the winners of the first round of applications. We have now selected in the order of 30 applications with an average grant of approximately 160,000 euros. And with this funding, the regions can hire a consultant that can do the technical work for them, and they can really progress on their climate risk assessments. We're going to open a second call the first week of July, and we highly encourage you that to apply, or if you know municipalities or regions that are interested in applying, here is the link that can be used for that. The regions will receive, I told you, funding, resources, and knowledge to hire a local consultant to do their technical work. And it is a very precious opportunity to really do a first step into climate risk assessments for regions that are not very acquainted with this type of work, but which is really relevant for us all. So please spread the word. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the project, and I hope to see many applicants from Croatia in the second round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also encourage all the participants to apply, not only for the climax open call, but also to all of the topics mentioned, and that you use all the options, all the websites, all the possibilities that are at your disposal to participate in the mission. And if you have any questions, you can contact me, or you can ask for today's webinar the questions at Slido. Now I will invite Thomas Katz from the Climate Kick to tell us more about another support option for applicants, and it is Pathways to Resilience, the Horizon Europe Adaptation Mission project. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivan, for this invitation and the opportunity to present Pathway to Resilience in this context to Croatia, which is a very great opportunity. I'm very glad to see so many interested actors already involved in Croatia, and it's a wonderful sort of opportunity to also share now what we are doing in Pathway to Resilience in this context. So very briefly, Pathway to Resilience is a flagship project, as is Climax, one of the larger projects in the mission adaptation, and it's particularly focused on that second objective, which is to accelerate the transition to a resilient future, and really wants to work on design what supports regions in designing a vision and innovation pathways, and develop enabling conditions to a solution. So it's very much about mobilizing partnerships and engagement and formulating that strategies, and to prepare these regions to then do the next steps, which would then be the implementation, the testing, etc. So Climax, as previously presented by Dana, is focusing on that orange bottom part of the pyramid, the first objective, and we are, as Pathway to Resilience, mainly focusing on that second part. But none of us is really going into implementation, the testing, or the demonstration projects, which is all the innovation actions that have been presented previously, for example. Its objective of Pathway to Resilience is to empower 100 regions in designing these pathways to climate resilience. The overall budget is about 30 million, of which 21 million is reserved for funding to regional projects through public calls. This is about 200,000 for each of the selected regions that we work with. The duration is 5 years, and here below you can see a little bit the scheme, how we work with these regions. We have 2 groups or cohorts of regions that we work with over 18 months each time. The first group is being selected now. We had a call which closed on the 6th of May, and we are in the process of selecting 40 regions out of the 160 applications we've received. The result will be communicated sometimes around mid-July, and And then by the start of September, October, we will begin work with these regions for 18 months. And then we will have later in the process, and there will be a second call opening in June 25, so in a year from now, and we'll be selecting 60 regions, and that will start the work with these 60 regions will start in January 26, and then go towards sort of June 27. Next slide. How does that work? Yeah, here we go. The overall objectives and key results we are aiming at in the sense of pathway to resilience is that on the one hand, we really want to support the 100 regions and communities in designing or improving, where they exist, their strategies on how to transition to climate resilience, including, on the one hand, description of which pathways to climate resilience they want to take, including adaptation options and all sorts of choices. Secondly, a formulation of an innovation agenda or portfolio of innovation actions that is supportive to that pathway and the transitions or transformation that are being needed. And then thirdly, the development of a very robust finance and investment plan that is financing and supporting the implementation of the two elements above. So these three strands are the most important strands, and delivery. So after these 18 months, we hope that these regions that we work with walk away with some decent developed plans on these different elements. The second main objective of Pathway to Resilience is to have improved the capacity and the capabilities of these 100 regions and communities to then continue to lead their own way to transition to climate resilience. The reason is that what we have in mind doing with our work is not seen as a one-off. It is really a recurrent process, and taking this further in sort of the plans into then the work of experimenting and scaling up. But then again, that will be an iterative process all the time. So one has to be constantly improving and looking at these things. So key of this process or project is also to just really leave the regions that we work with an enhanced capacity or capability to walk that path more independently and work and do that alone. And third, but not last, is that we want to use this opportunity of actually having developed these frameworks and the support approach, the capacity building approach, and are applying this in the 100 regions. We want to use this incidence or this opportunity to learn and further validate and improve our frameworks, and then hopefully at the end of this 5-year project are being left with a very solid approach to actually support regions and moving on, so we can then further apply or scale this out to beyond the 100 regions to other regions in Europe as well. So here now I wanted to dive deeper into these 3 different approaches. And so the first thing is this work of helping these 100 regions to enable them to come up with their strategies. This is what we use as the conceptual framework around the regional resilience journey. This is a concept or a conceptual framework that is very much aligned with the one of the city's mission, which is the partner mission that was mentioned already before. And so very closely aligned in their conceptual approach, we have these different steps, which you can see is we want to take the regions through. Is one is preparing the ground with a number of sub-steps and activities, then building a shared vision of what it means, where they want to get at, and then the third element, defining pathways and the innovation agendas and other things within it. So that's a very important part. And here at the right side, you see these being sort of further split down in more detailed actions. And the other part, which is very important, is the provisioning of enabling conditions and to support the thinking that these steps will have to be done all the way through building on enabling conditions, which includes the mobilization of finance and resource, of knowledge and data, of governance and engagement mechanisms and collaboration, capacity and skills development, behavioral change, and that whole idea of continuous experimentation, learning, and reflection loop. And so these are the enabling conditions that also are being paid much attention from the project, and where we want to also sort of build that capacity in the regions to move on with these things by themselves. This second part, and that building of capacity and learning flow, is this shown by this slide. So we have up there in the blue, we have something which is sort of a generic web-based, open to everybody toolbox for where we have for each of the activities that is suggested along this resilience journey. And we will have lots of information in terms of methodologies, best practices, examples, checklists, guidance, on how to actually move and accomplish these different steps along this resilience journey. We then have these, the light green and then green there, the capacity building training program, which is the heart, maybe if you so want, for what we want to do for the 100 regions that applied to us. And that is, for each of these steps and activities, we will provide a very thorough and detailed webinar or a training capacity building program that accompanies these regions over these 18 months, along each of these steps, and explains how these steps should be or could be undertaken at the local level. We then further have mechanisms that, on the one hand, help the peer-led mentoring between regions. So we provide a space where regions of similar interest or similar questions can support each other and exchange. And we have what we call these innovation practice groups, where around thematic areas, such as the innovation areas of the mission adaptation, which is the enabling conditions, as much as the key community systems around, for example, nature-based solutions, water management, health, infrastructure, etc. And so to have innovation practice groups where regions exchange on their experience of how they've done that previously or currently, or how they're thinking of doing this, supported by expertise, and so having a knowledge exchange across regions and experts on how to actually get on with these ideas. And then thirdly and lastly, we have one task where we, for 1/10 of the regions we are working with, we actually have the means to go very hands-on and have one-to-one support, and where we follow more closely the whole resilience journey approach. Last but not least, and also to sort of learn from all these activities, one of the key elements which we are developing as measuring the capability is this regional maturity assessment. So where we have sort of combining climate risk data, and that's similar data that also will be used and further developed by Climax, where we use this together with data that currently has been and will be sort of taken by P2R in the context for the 100 regions, on measuring their capacities, so the resilience capabilities, how they are set up to deal with the resilience. And so these two things together then give this idea of how mature a region is regarding its resilience, and where are sort of lacks or gaps of capacities vis-a-vis the risk. And so you end up with a map like this, possibly with a high risk and low capacity areas, which are those regions that are probably most need of support, and others which are having different features. Having said that, we in Pathway to Resilience are covering a number of, it's not only exclusively this red quadrant. Some focus on that is predetermined by the criteria of selection, but we go beyond that as well, and really want to have a spread across Europe, and sort of seeing that regions that we select cover a majority or the most maximum number of member states and associated countries, etc. And so then, based on this maturity assessment, we want to also learn along the way of how much the regions have improved after the time of our project, have actually improved their capacity of this. And with this, I end my presentation, and I'm very happy to learn and share further information in the Q&A later.
Thank you, Thomas, for this very important presentation in the overall structure of the implementation of the mission adaptation to climate change. Our last speaker is Ivana Pudis, our Assistant Director for EU programs in the field of science at the Agency for Mobility and EU programs. Ivana, please, Ivana will tell us more about our national support system for Horizon Europe and the measures of our Ministry of Education, Science and Youth that are available to potential applicants.
Ponajprije hvala na interesu i hvala prethodnim govornicama i govornicama na relevantnim sadržajima. Evo nas na početku prezentacije. Dakle, sada širimo za kraj perspektivu i sa same teme misija, smisao ove zadnje prezentacije, da vam pružim neke općenitije informacije o programu Obzor Europa, načinu na koji se njime nacionalno upravlja, da saznate nešto o akterima, uključenim u njegovu provedbu i ono što je najvažnije, o raznim oblicima potpore koje su na raspolaganju i potencijalnim prijaviteljima i provoditeljima projekata tijekom razdoblja provedbe projekata. Obzor Europa 9. okvirni program namijenjen istraživanju i inovacijama, odnosno instrument uspostavljen davne 1984. godine i ova generacija, 9. generacija programa je ne samo europski, već i globalno najveći program financiranja istraživanja inovacija vrijednosti preko 95 milijardi eura. Svrha mu je osnažiti znanstvene i tehnološke kapacitete, pridonijeti konkurentnosti unije, nadopuniti nacionalne i regionalne izvore, formatima suradnje koje projekti nude, a koji su transnacionalni i europski i globalni, i na taj način osnažiti i znanstveno-istraživačke kapacitete, ali i kapacitete za međunarodnu suradnju i internacionalizaciju uključenih organizacija i pružiti financiranje usmjerena rješavanju brojnih društvenih izazova. Program je sazdan u 3 stupa i naziv svakoga stupa sažima sadržaj dijelova programa pa i poziva koji su u njega uključeni. Prvi stup nosi naziv izvrsnost u znanosti, drugi nosi naziv globalni izazovi i industrijska konkurentnost Europe. Ovaj je stup sazdan od 6 klastera tematskih područja kojima su pridružene i pripadajuće misije i njegov dio čini zajednički istraživački centar, te potom imamo 3. stup usmjeren inovacijama i naziva Inovativna Europa. Uz spomenuta 3 stupa to je jedno zajedničko područje koje se naziva širenje sudjelovanja i jačanje europskog istraživačkog prostora. Širenje sudjelovanja je skup aktivnosti projektnih mogućnosti, prvenstveno otvoren onim zemljama unije koje ponešto zaostaju i u znanstveno-istraživačkim inovacijskim i kapacitetima i ishodima, među njima i Hrvatska, i drugi dio ovog zajedničkog područja bavi se reformom i jačanjem sustava za istraživanje inovacije, odnosno zajedničkim europskim istraživačko-inovacijskim politikama okupljenim pod umbrella nazivom Europski istraživački prostor. Svim cijenjenim interesentima za Obzor, prva adresa u Hrvatskoj je svakako naš nacionalni portal Obzor Europa. Pozivamo vas da na njemu pratite novosti, informacije o natječajima, možete se prijaviti na obavijesti, označiti područje od vašeg interesa, pa ćete slijedom toga i zaprimati mjesečne vjesnike, odnosno važne okružne obavijesti kada imamo najave relevantnih događanja ili druge važne obavijesti. Vrlo kratko da se obodrimo kao korisnička zajednica. Dakle, u prethodnom programu Obzoru 2020. hrvatski su korisnici ukupno povukli nekih 138 milijuna eura. Sada smo na polovini ovog aktualnog programa Obzor Europa i tu smo već gotovo na 97 milijuna eura, pa se toplo nadamo da ćemo našim zbirnim naporima značajno nadmašiti uspješno sudjelovanja u odnosu na prethodni program. Na ovom se slajdu neću pretjerano zaustavljati jer ćete ga i dobiti u sklopu svih prezentacija. Ovo je aktualno stanje uspješno sudjelovanje i rezultati hrvatskih korisnika. Vidimo da je stopa uspješnosti u području zdravlja nekih 17% i do sad je ugovorena su 24 projekta iznosa negdje preko 8 milijuna eura. U pogledu našeg nacionalnog sustava programom Obzor Europa upravlja Ministarstvo znanosti i obrazovanja, odnedavna i mladih. Ministarstvo provodi naravno aktivnosti koordinacije svih aktera, centralna točka za komunikaciju s komisijom i koordinira sve nacionalne aktivnosti. Pri ministarstvu djeluju koordinatorice programa Obzor Europa. Ministarstvo imenuje ekspertice i eksperte, članove programskih odbora za pojedina područja programa i nacionalne osobe za kontakt. U ovome času, ako točno pamtim, mislim da je ukupno imenovanih 26 nacionalnih osoba za kontakt za razna područja i najveći dio tih osoba, njih 16, djeluje pri našoj agenciji, pa smo u tom smislu i najveći partner resornom ministarstvu u provedbi programa. Uz nas, dio nacionalnih osoba za kontakt imenovan je i pri Hrvatskoj zakladi za znanost, sveučilišnom računskom centru, za područje Euratoma, odnosno nuklearnu sigurnost pri Ministarstvu unutarnjih poslova i za područje inovacija pri Agenciji HAMAG-BICRO. Važno je napomenuti da cijenjene nacionalne osobe za kontakt, danas ovdje kolegica Bezmalinović, su vama na dispoziciji kako bi vas informirali o natječajima, pružali individualizirana savjetovanja, uputili vas i u razne programske procedure i pravila, primjerice vezana uz pravno-financijska pitanja. Zadaća je kolega promovirati program putem ovakvih događanja i nizom naših kanala kako bi podigli vidljivost mogućnosti u hrvatskoj korisničkoj zajednici. Kontakti svih nacionalnih osoba za kontakt su na našem portalu u rubrici kontakt i podrška, pa se kolegama obratite za bilo koje područje koje vas zanima. U završnom dijelu bih spomenula da naše resorno ministarstvo već niz godina primjenjuje, odnosno nudi mjere za jačanje nacionalnog sudjelovanja u programima unije u području istraživanja, inovacije i svemira. Netom su donesene nove mjere, odnosno ažurirane prijašnje. Smisao im je poboljšati kvalitetu i broj prijava na pozive, povećati znanstvenu izvrsnost prijavitelja, te osnažiti ljudske i operativne kapacitete organizacija koje rade na razvoju i provedbi projekata. Obveza je korisnika mjera da od predaje zahtjeva za potporu u okviru mjera, u okviru od 12 mjeseci prijave i projektni prijedlog. Ovdje je jedan asterisk jer su od ove obveze izuzete kolegice i kolege u stručnim službama kojima je posao potpora u okviru organizacija matičnih u smislu razvoja projektnih prijedloga. Kolege iz stručnih službi, bilo da se zovu službe za znanost, EU projekte, transfer tehnologije ili drugačije, mogu koristiti mjere u svrhu jačanja osobnih stručnih kapaciteta. Prijaviti se de facto mogu razni profili organizacija, odnosno pravne osobnosti, uz znanstvene organizacije i javne ustanove, zaklade, organizacije civilnog društva te poduzetnici. Mjere su podijeljene u dva dijela. Prva se mjera odnosi na podršku prijavama na natječaje i za pojedinu aktivnost se može zatražiti do 2.500 eura. Druga mjera je usmjerena prijaviteljima koji su već prošli evaluacijski prag svojim projektnim prijedlogom, ali nisu ostvarili financiranje, te mogu tražiti dodatnu potporu u svrhu unapređenja projektnog prijedloga i to do 3.000 eura ako su u okviru projektnog konzorcija partneri, odnosno do 6 ukoliko su koordinatori. Na ovome slajdu su sažeto je prikazan sadržaj mjera, dakle što možete prijaviti pod mjerom 1, razna putovanja, smještaja i kotizacije vezana uz sudjelovanje na konferencijama, radionicama, edukacijama, susretima umrežavanja i slično, a koji će vam pomoći da se educirate o pojedinom dijelu programa Obzor Europa ili za razvoj projektnih prijedloga u specifičnom području, te umrežite i ostvarite kontakte u smislu konzorcija. Tu su mogući je isnošenje troškova za održavanje konferencija, angažman predavača te savjetodavne i intelektualne usluge, ponešto je drugačiji sklop mjera, odnosno prihvatljivi troškovi u okviru mjere 2 namijenjenim ponovljenim prijavama. Sadržaj odluke o mjerama je također na portalu u rubrici Kontakt i podrška. I ovime zaključujem ovu kratku završnicu. Najljepše vam zahvaljujem na pozornosti, te ostavljam i kontakte nadležnih kolegica za mjere ukoliko ćete planirati koristiti ih pa imati kakve upite. Evo, najljepše pozdravljam i vraćam onda riječ.
Hvala Ivana puno također na ovoj prezentaciji. Mislim da su naši sudionici dobili pregled svih mjera i ulogu našeg nacionalnog sustava podrške. I will switch to English again and ask my colleague just to share our slide on screen. So anybody now, if you have any questions to any of our presenters and speakers, you can ask them via Slido on the new topics in 2024 for the emission adaptation to climate change, or for the support options for applicants. So any questions that you may have, you can ask them now, or if by any chance we cannot answer them today, we will answer them in writing. Here we go. So for now, we don't have any questions, I think. But I have a question just to get started for Sophie regarding citizens engagement. So citizens engagement is a very important aspect of all missions. So perhaps if you can bring closer a little bit this aspect in regarding the demonstration sites, what does and how does citizens engagement factor in demonstration sites? What is the role of citizen engagement for the testing and application of solutions? In brief, it's just
sorry, the sound wasn't great. So just to make sure that I understood the question, you're asking about citizen engagement for the demonstration, for the demonstration topics. Is that what you?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of, I guess, citizen engagement, I mean, there are two things here. It's the first one is about whether or not it is specifically mentioned in the topic, because then if it's mentioned in the topic, it means that it's going to be part of the evaluation very explicitly. But otherwise, citizen engagement, and maybe if we widen a little bit more to stakeholder engagement, is key, because the solutions that are being developed as part of the project, the idea is that those solutions stay in place beyond the lifetime of the project that we are funding, but even beyond that, potentially replicated elsewhere. And so having the citizen and the stakeholder involved in the development of the solution is key, because this is what is going to ensure social acceptance of those. And so this is something that is really key to have that as part of engagement. It's the same, like, because citizen engagement and nature-based solutions are so much at the heart of the mission. It's important to consider them. Also, I'd like to mention that from the 2021 call, we have been funding 2 projects that are working specifically on citizen engagement for climate adaptation. It's Klimas and Agora. And so if the projects are interested in capturing citizen engagement, and also it's good to look at what they've produced. And also MIFRO-ADAPT has been produced a guidance document on citizen engagement that is on the portal of the website, and also on the slides. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, thank you. We seem not to have any questions at the moment, so I encourage all the participants to take advantage that we have very distinguished guests here, and to, if you have any questions regarding any of the topics that we mentioned today or something is not clear, please ask a Slido. I will, while we are waiting, I have another question regarding the scalability of solutions. So the whole idea is that we have test sites, demonstration sites, and that which are funded in this context via Horizon Europe project, but also they could be funded via seed funding from other sources. And that these solutions that are tested and developed at the sites are then scaled up and replicated all over Europe. So I just wanted to share any of our speakers today, their knowledge and experience in this scalability, because this is a very important issue and requirement for the missions to succeed. So if you have information on this aspect of the current projects and the results that are being demonstrated, how were they scaled up, or are there any plans, working plans for their scalability?
Maybe I can start first and then see if anyone can complement me. There is one practical issue. It's a very, very interesting question, but the main practical issue is the fact that the first mission project started in January 2023. We have 2 projects, Resist and R4C, who started at that moment, and they've been running for slightly over a year. And because they are both projects with 50 partners, it's taken a lot of time for those projects to get started and really install the structure and start collecting the results. So they're now at the phase where they are developing the solution, starting to implement. And so it's a little bit hard to say how to upscale that. It's a bit of a turning point. So at this point, there is not so much we can say. But I would like to say that the topic number 1 is precisely also there to try and help upscale those solutions. But I can see that I have some other colleagues who have other interesting things to say.
Yes, please. Ivan.
Yes, thank you, Ivan, for this question. I just wanted to briefly reflect regarding the Desir Med project. The same as Sophie said, it just relatively started, but we have the entire working package dedicated to this topic. I think it will be interesting also because the scales are also, in our case, even lower than the size of the partner. So, for example, even if we have some success story from the very small scale, it will be easier to replicate it across the county or across the country. I think what will be challenging but very interesting, even to replicate it in other countries, even though we are all EU countries, but the governing structure is different. You know, sometimes MBS are operated by local authorities, sometimes by national institutions, sometimes with combination. So it's very challenging to have, I would say, one scalability framework that will be successful everywhere. But our I would say mission is to do it, you know, as clear as possible, simply to encourage people to go in this direction. As soon as we have some practical, you know, practical outcome out of it, we will share, of course, but you need to know that, for example, in our project, scalability starts only in the year 3. Why? Because we all need to have all these demonstrating sites doing their thing in the first 2 years, so in order that we can scale up the good practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas and then Sophie.
Yes, very good question indeed. And so it's true that the mission will emerge, or many of these scalable sort of learnings will emerge only in a few years from now. But already now I wanted to highlight embedded mechanisms that will lead to this effect. And one example here I wanted to give is that we in Pathway to Resilience will work very closely with the EIB, the European Investment Bank, for example, that will be quite closely working with us and the 100 regions in designing their projects and their sort of finance plans. And so that in the course of this work, these projects will develop bankable projects, right? So and then when they have bankable projects, then the EIB at the end of that plan, when it's ready, will be able to chip in with significant loans. And at the moment, one of the big problems of the EIB is that it sits on a lot of money, which will not able to actually give out because there's not enough bankable projects emerging. And so one of the things we do is to actually have from these 100 regions bankable projects emerging. That's one, but that's not yet the scaling out effect. The scaling out effect is that together with the EIB and us, this will be a learning process of what it takes to come up with bankable projects, and that will be information that will be quite easily, I think, be replicable and scaling out and scaling up. And so this may hopefully lead for the EIB to take measures to be more targeted and to give information, and that will lead us other projects in other regions that will look at sort of P2R's outcomes and learnings to do the same. So I mean, this is just one mechanism where I really see clearly an example where this will be very clearly emerging as a scaling out effect.
Thank you. Excellent.
May I just add something? It's also very, very good point. I just like also to mention that in terms of scalability, there will also be the topic number 2, which is the one on multi-level governance that will aim to also work in that regard in the national hubs, where it will be a forum for entities from a same country to discuss the solutions that are coming from elsewhere. I'd like to say also that this is also one of the job of the mission implementation made for ADAPT to try and work on the solutions that work. But as highlighted before, it's a bit too early. And lastly, I'd like to highlight also that on the portal, we have the adaptation stories, which are also meant to be a way to convey that message. And I invite you to have a look at the 2 from Croatia, because they're really interesting, the one that were presented by Miljenko, but this is a way also to reach further with solutions developed.
Excellent. Thank you. And we have the first question. So I read the question. I encourage other participants to ask if they have questions. So regarding the mission charter, who can apply? Is there any requirements regarding the who can apply, and is there any document?
So for the mission charter, it used to be regions, local authorities, or entities that represent like territorial entities that have the mandate to work on adaptation. However, unfortunately, the call for signing the charter is closed, and has been closed since the end of 2022, because at some point we had to move forward and work with a club that we had. However, I'd like to highlight that charter signature is only one way to get involved with a mission, and being part of the project, be it P2R, Climax, or even the demonstration project, is a way to get access to be part of the mission, and is a way also to get access to some of the services. And unfortunately, there isn't much I can share at this moment about what the regions that are part of the project will get access to exactly, because we are in the process of discussing that internally. But this is clear that those regions are part of the community of practice, and those regions can have access to, for instance, the the closed space for the regions on the community of practice and these kind of things.
Maybe I can quickly chip in just to give an example. 2/3 of those regions that applied for Pathway to Resilience are non-mission signatories. You know, there's a good chance that we will be supporting quite a number of those which are not mission signatories. And this is absolutely, you know, so fine. It was an open process like that. Just to support what Sophie just said. There's plenty of other mechanisms to get involved and active.
Maybe then it's also worth for the upcoming call. It's worth clarifying that by the regulation of Horizon Europe, there is no the charter signatories have no extra points because they are charter signatories. It's meant to be a level playing field, so it's equal chance for everyone, and everyone is just evaluated based on the same set of criteria.
Thank you. It seems we do not have any more questions, which means I will wrap up and thank all our speakers and presenters for taking their time to be here with us today and contribute to this webinar. You will all receive an evaluation forms with the email, with the thank you email. You will receive all the presentations, and this webinar will be published on the YouTube channel of our Agency for Mobility Legal Program, so you can revisit anything that was said today or later. If you have any questions, you can direct them at me as the National NCP for emissions, so I will be glad to answer them regarding the topics or regarding the emissions, or anything that you have, any questions related to emissions you may have. And this is our first webinar today on the emission adaptation to climate change. On Wednesday, we have at the Faculty of Agriculture, we have the emission soil. On Friday, we have emission cancer webinar. And next Monday, we have emission ocean. And Wednesday next week, we have the webinar on the new European Bauhaus topics and cross-cutting activities. So we have a lot of things coming, and I would like to thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and hope to see you at our future events.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.